Sadly, again, the subject is racism. We're talking about Lewis saying there's no place in Formula One for archaic mindsets, as he called them, after the former world champion Nelson Piquet had used a racial slur towards Hamilton himself. And of course, Hamilton says it's more than language. These archaic mindsets need to change. They have no place in our sport. And of course, this comes in a week that we have been covering other instances of racial comments. Of course, we were talking about the interview that Luther Burrell gave over the weekend to the Mail on Sunday about some racist comments that were made in his direction from teammates, players that he knew. It begs the question, is racism alive and well in other sports? And it seems to be. Now, yesterday, off the back of the Luther Burrell interview, Simon and I, you and I conducted that interview live earlier on in the week, we heard from Martin Offiah. Of course, an extremely gifted rugby player, both at union and league level. And Martin was talking about this and giving us his reaction to the Burrell situation. Now, Martin Offiah has shared this with us today, and it gives you a rough idea that just how acutely people are listening, not only to this show, but to what goes on within it. And Martin Simon got contacted by one of our listeners yesterday, who contacted Martin and said, listen, Martin Offiah, when you played for Widnes, I can remember being part of a large group that was pretty racist towards you. It's something I'd forgotten about until I heard your interview today on TalkSport. It made me look back and into myself somewhat and why I behaved that way all that time ago. And he says it definitely wasn't banter, and I apologise. He said, I've never ever repeated the behaviour. But it's made me think again. Thanks for doing the interview on TalkSport today and reminding me that I owed you an apology. And here's your apology.
And that's what I'm talking about. Rather than Luther coming out and, I wouldn't say grassing people up, but giving names and forcing people to take accountability for what they've done. Because they might not know it. Now they're thinking about it. It'd be refreshing for one of them players to say, you know what? I thought it was banter. We had loads of different cracks in the changing room. I didn't realise this was affecting the black players, and I want to apologise. And I think if a player come out and did that, he would be looked upon in a different light, rather than Luther coming out and absolutely.
And that's a good point. And in an ideal world, that would happen. In another world where...
But it has just happened.
Yeah, that's great. And here's an example of an ideal world where it has happened. In another world where the majority of people in that dressing room aren't racist, and then will be tarred by the same brush of the people.
Yeah, I don't like that world either.
Is a challenging one as well, because unless you put, I want racism removed like the next sane-minded person. I want it pointed at, I want it identified, and I want people accountable for it. And if it runs from the bottom of an organisation to the top of an organisation, then the accusation of institutional racism is absolutely right and appropriate. What I don't want is people suggesting a culture exists inside an environment, and then everybody, as a result of it, that has done nothing wrong, has to suffer the tag, has to go on diversity and equality courses that they may not want to go on or need to go on because they don't have that mindset that needs to be educated, which, by the way, is an expression I loathe. It's not about education, it's about being made more aware. Education is a patronising term and often means I want to educate you to come round to my point of view, and if you don't come round to my point of view, I want you to educate yourself some more until you do. There is a context in every conversation, and I've just made an observation about ginger hair as a point of difference. I understand that there is a difference between colour of skin and colour of hair. Depends if you're on the receiving end of the abuse. But by definition, most things in life are about a point of difference.
You can't compare the colour of somebody's hair because
we live in a country.
We don't want to start going back in history and telling you why it's so relevant, why black people are offended so much by being called black. Because I don't remember 4 million red-haired people.
You do get called
black.
Black.
If you let me speak, I don't remember 4 million people getting taken from Africa.
Jesus, Trevor, that's 250 years ago.
But he's still in the psyche of black people, Simon.
We're living today now.
So,
we call black people because they're black, and that's the right way to address them, isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
But let's just not go away from the point. I can't remember 4 million people getting taken from their home and taken halfway across the ocean and become slaves without getting paid. So don't ever compare red-haired people to being racially abused.
No, you're missing my point.
No, I'm not missing your point.
Well, you don't know what my point is, so let me make my point.
You just made it about red-haired people getting abused.
I've talked about point of difference is often a reasons why people get ridiculed. Now, the exception is if you extrapolate it up to be about skin, then it becomes less of a point of a difference and more of a way to diminish somebody. And I get that entirely. But we cannot keep talking about what happened 250 years ago and put it into society today because it's not relevant today.
Of course, it might not be relevant to you, but it's relevant to a lot of people.
Just to simplify something,
that's a victim's complex,
what you were saying there,
I don't think it is a victim's
complex.
complex.
The next step in the Luther Burrell situation is, as Trevor was suggesting, one of those players in the proximity of Burrell,
then that's good,
was to lift the phone, Trevor, to Burrell and say, listen, I've been thinking long and hard about that. Just as happened with the fire there.
Yeah.
I've been thinking long and hard about that. I just want to say sorry to you. Now, Simon, the situation is, if someone else in that dressing room environment somehow gets caught up in it by association of being there on the same day, but did not say anything on that day to Burrell, I'm afraid that's a simple
collateral damage.
Additional part of collateral damage, mate.
So my tragedy,
that's it.
And I agree, but there's also, it's easy for us to sit here and have that viewpoint, but by the same token, we've got the RFU coming out now, because the narrative will be peddled out, it's institutional racism, and the RFU are coming out and apologising for something they haven't done. This is what Luther Burrell said. My mates.
But why did the RFU use
because they're cowards and they're frightened of the consequence of not being able to push back like people are frightened.
Or maybe they know that. Or maybe they know that there's a bit of underlying problem within different clubs, as Luther would say.
Well, then they're institutionally racist. By that definition.
But Simon, we've just touched on an important point, and I'm with you completely on it. There would be collateral damage, but so be it. If someone else was involved in that dressing room with Burrell that day and didn't say anything to Burrell but was still there, he might get caught up in it, and I'm afraid that's just part of the story.
But then Burrell has said in the interview, I crossed the line. So at which point does crossing the line being a black man or crossing the line being a white man become bankrupt of moral turpitude on either side?
Within the group.
You know what? I really believe, and Trevor may disagree with this, and lots of people will probably screaming down the phone, I really believe the terminology banter and stupid, childish, immature sports people not really understanding the consequences of what they're saying is vastly different from out-and-out racism.
And
I don't suggest
I agree with that.
I
agree with that. I mean, there's a story that Shaka Hislop tells when he went to Newcastle. And he was signing for Newcastle. He'd come outside St James's Park, and there was a couple of fans. I don't mean to pick up on Newcastle fans, but this is a true story that, and this is how So Racism the Red Card was founded by Shaka Hislop. This is how he came to the idea. And Shaka Hislop said there was a few people 100 yards away, give him a little bit of abuse, racist abuse. Shaka was shocked by this, thought, what club have I come to? Walked over, went over to see these people who had racially abused him. And as he walked over to them, they realised it was Shaka Hislop, and they asked for his autograph. And he just thought, I need to work with this group of
what
people.
Do you do with that? How ridiculous is
that?
Yeah,
so I understand what Simon's saying, and that is true. They might not be racist, but they may have said racist things that are going to hurt the feelings of some black people, and that needs to be addressed.
I think what it does today, Simon, is, and Trevor, I hope you agree with me on this. If anything, those who might be inclined to shoot off at the mouth, thinking it's banter and it's funny, are having serious second thoughts.
And that's the main thing when I was reading the Yorkshire County Cricket Club situation, and forget about who's involved in it. Certain things were going on and were being accepted within the group. And if one thing happens, which is going to be a positive, they'll think twice about doing it in the future.
Of course. Mr. Simon Jordan, we are allowing you to leave the proceedings today early. Trevor,
with a nice light-hearted subject.
On a light-hearted subject. As soon as you're out that door, we'll be talking about you. If that doesn't go down, we'll be sharing it with the millions who are listening. Simon, thanks, mate. We will see you tomorrow morning. Trevor and I is going to take it home.
Send love to Simon Jordan as well. You need educating. You know what I'm saying? We got love for you. You know what I'm saying? But you need educating. So you keep him thinking that you don't need an awareness course. Yes, you need an awareness course. You know what I'm saying? I'm afraid, you know what I'm saying, guys, but thanks for showing us your true heart and showing where you're at.